shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello YouTubers out there, this is Saravia the Movies. So today we're taking a look at a new film called The Brutalist, which opened in limited engagement at the beginning of this month. And it stars Adrien Brody. And it's an immigration epic, which won the Golden Globe Award for Best Picture, or Best Motion Picture Drama. And has received a lot of positive notices. But unfortunately, I'm just not one of those people who find much here to really gravitate towards, and I'll explain why. So, this is an ambitious project, to be sure. The director, someone I'm not really familiar with, named Brody Corbett. And as I said, this is an ambitious picture. It's really the story of the American dream, to be sure, from the subjective point of view of a struggling and talented architect named Laszlo Toth, played wonderfully with resplendent charisma, to be sure, by Adrien Brody. In fact, this whole cast is amazing. It's really quite good. He had survived the Nazi Holocaust, and he makes his mark in America slowly, working for his friend in a furniture store, and is fired from that furniture store for supposedly making a pass at this guy's wife. Now, they sort of knew each other already, but he certainly didn't make any pass whatsoever. So there may be some strain of anti-Semitism going on here, to be sure. Now, he gets help, or let's put it this way, he actually helps design this library for a wealthy industrialist played by Guy Pearce. The name of this character is Van Buren. And that's when he's working at the furniture store. So eventually he collects the money, and after being ejected from the furniture store, and helps build a massive, ambitious project for Van Buren. It's a concrete building with 4 large separate sections, including a chapel. And Laszlo has even more ambitious designs on such a building, adding an opening on the top roof section that allows light to filter in and show an illuminated cross in the chapel. Now, this is also the story of Laszlo Toth's long-suffering wife, and I couldn't really pronounce that name, so I'm not going to even try, played by Felicity Jones, who is brilliant in this movie. This is one of the best performances I think I've seen her in probably since The Theory of Everything. And she's trying to come to the United States with her largely mute niece, played by Raffi Cassidy. And when they do arrive, finally, after quite some time with the help of Van Buren, she's wheelchair-bound, Laszlo's wife, and thanks to osteoporosis caused by the famine. So the couple and the niece live together on the work site. There are also issues with Laszlo, who is impotent, and he's also a heroin user. So this causes disturbances in their marriage, yet they are very committed to each other. The first half of The Brutalist is very potent. It's a very strong first half. Sets up the loss of control Laszlo has in latter years in the second half of the film, which is separated actually by the rare use of an actual intermission. Now, I have not dealt with an intermission in a movie since Hamlet. Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet from back in 1996, which was a 4-hour movie that had an actual intermission. So this is kind of a rare event, and probably an intermission might have helped for some viewers, Killers of the Flower Moon, although I'm told some screenings did actually have an intermission, an unauthorized one, but nonetheless. Anyway, so then there's the difficulties with Van Buren. Okay, Van Buren himself turns out to be far more rotten than anyone thought. I'm not going to give away too much about that. And so all of this is set up in quite a strong way, at least in the first half. There's a strong build-up there, I think. I especially like the beginning of the film, where he's in a boat, but I wasn't even sure about that, Laszlo, because everything is so underlit, and I'll get back to that in a second. And you don't know what's happening. Everything is a handheld camera. And so at first it seemed like he was in a prison or trying to get away from this war-torn area. I mean, you weren't really sure what the hell was going on until you realize he's on a boat and he's arriving at Ellis Island and he sees the Statue of Liberty, but it's upside down. And I liked the way that was all done subjectively. So there are many scenes in this film that really are extraordinary. The way they are set up. I love that this director doesn't cut away frequently. He has long takes, which are really quite well done. Anyway, but the problem with this movie, I think, is that the characters are credibly portrayed, to be sure, by everyone involved, but I was never persuaded to care about them. And I think that ends up being a major flaw for this film. The movie never really engaged me, never really involved me. I never felt involved in these situations. And again, there's high drama here, but it seems rather inert in execution. It's rather strange how this film sort of develops. I mean, like I said, the first half of this film is strong, but it just doesn't. I felt like I was at arm's length with a lot of these characters. Now, for some writer-directors, especially writer-directors, this is a way of trying to make you observe the characters, almost like a character study, to be at arm's length a little bit. But in this case, I just felt aloof. I was indifferent to much of what I was seeing. The construction of these buildings, again, Laszlo is playing a architect, and he's very engaged and excited by building things. You can see it. So the construction, the intricate plans, all this stuff is not delivered with any real excitement or energy. Everything is just enervatingly presented, despite the energetic performances. And the towering music score by Daniel Blumberg has real build-up, but it just doesn't seem to really correspond to the images. Now, speaking of images, the cinematography is by Lal Crawley and is shot using the rarely used VistaVision process. Now, at the screening that I saw it at, it had very muted colors and extremely low light levels. Now, recently, back in December, I saw the first film, I believe, to use the VistaVision process, which was White Christmas from back in 1954. And if you watch that picture, which is almost like kind of the width of it is very widescreen. It really is expansive. There are crisp colors and everything else, and it really stands out, this VistaVision process. Now, I'm not saying, of course, every film has to look the same and has to be very crisp colors. Not at all. I actually appreciate the fact that they tried to have a more muted palette of browns and some grays. But the problem was the low lighting. I would think that the use of VistaVision would be more expressive than impressionistic, which apparently is what there was an interview with this cinematographer. They were trying to be more impressionistic. Now, I understand that up to a certain point. Here, everything, I just couldn't tell sometimes what was happening on screen. And for an epic about America post-World War II and the immigrant experience, this struck me as the wrong approach for this film. As I said, some scenes do work well with this visual choice, some of the long takes, but there's also like a dance party and a catacomb-like dwelling that actually was quite remarkable and made sense that it would be low light levels. Then there's an amazing sequence, the wide vistas of the mountain range, where Laszlo and Van Buren witness the beauty of marble. And but the interior scenes are too underlit for my tastes. It may not be the underexposed look of, say, a different kind of immigrant story, which was the prequel portion of The Godfather Part 2, which was shot by Gordon Willis, if I remember correctly. But this still looked too dank, minus any true focus or clear depth of field. And it's strange, because this movie has scenes of raw power, yet most of it just registered as shallow, very morose, without the juice to spice it up. Again, I'm not looking for it to be uplifting. I'm not saying that. It's just that even with raw power, you want to feel like images are leaping from the screen. Those are the best kinds of movies, where you feel like you're really in there. It's very immersive. And I just didn't feel it with this movie. It felt like it should be there, and it wasn't. There's one amazing, extraordinary shot that's used in trailers. In the film, it lasts only, just a few seconds. But it's Adrien Brody during one of these montages where it's a low angle and he's looking down smoking a cigarette and you see sparks coming up. And that to me was very vivid. But the movie could have used more of that. Again, I understand trying to be moody and have a muddy look. I like, now I'm reaching back in cinema history here with, I think of Robert Altman's McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which certainly had that look. But that movie felt alive. You know what I mean? When the performances feel alive and the settings also feel alive, that's what you want. And it felt as if it just wasn't quite there. The overall look of the film, the overall atmosphere of it. There are good things in this movie, but even after a while, I couldn't gravitate towards these characters. Again, thrillingly portrayed by all, but I just couldn't get involved. And I just don't know why. I don't know why overall this movie, it has a look that lends it an overall laden feel that shouldn't be there. So I found it a tad disappointing, to say the least. It probably, this is one of the few times you'll hear me say, at least for a big epic, this probably should have been shorter. But those are just my opinions. Those are my thoughts. I could be way off. Maybe, I'll look at it again in the future and see something I didn't see. Interestingly enough, the clips that I've seen online, or even as just a commercial on TV, some of the clips they've chosen look a little crisper than they did in the theater. So I don't know if it was just a theater presentation, but if you read the interviews with the cinematographer, they were going for a low light look, a very underexposed look, and it seems to cause a problem for me visually with this film. In addition to not being really engaged by the actors in the film, by their characters. It didn't feel like this had a sweeping look that necessitated all this for 3.5 hours. But that's just my opinion. Lend me yours. Tell me what you think of The Brutalist. Have you seen this film? And what do you think of Adrien Brody? Do you agree that maybe it was too underexposed overall? That it sort of loosens the interest overall in the film? In addition to the characters, do you think that maybe there could have been more to them, that we felt more engaged by them? That's just my opinion. Thank you to new subscribers out there. And if you are a new subscriber, thank you. And if you're already a subscriber, please hit the notification bell for future uploads. And that's all I got to say about The Brutalist. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.